probably why.
To
But this is why.
Yes,
This is why.
You didn't hold up.
We probably won't be able to move on from January 6th. Comparing what happened.
The country has already moved on.
No.
It's everybody today that's having a meltdown that hasn't moved on.
Trump keeps bringing it up. We're not hard to lose. That's why you don't want to be a loser. And
that's why Donald Trump couldn't
do it. That's why we actually are here, is because he couldn't be an adult. He couldn't stand up and say,
gonna feel. Because you can whitewash it as much as you want in the moment. There is no confusion, none, as to what happened, and it is not.
Hello, everybody. Guys, this Abby Phillip panel gets pretty intense. Let's get right into it, and we'll talk about it.
Now versus then. Today, January 6th played out as intended, with the Vice President of the United States certifying the election results. No violence, no injured police officers, no deaths, no near-fatal blows to American democracy. Today, unlike 4 years ago, the President of the United States didn't marshal a mob and then point them toward the Capitol. Today, unlike then, the outgoing administration listened to the will of the voters. Today, unlike then, the loser of the election didn't urge their supporters to fight like hell. Today, Kamala Harris said this.
It was about what should be the norm and what the American people should be able to take for granted, which is that one of the most important pillars of our democracy is that there will be a peaceful transfer of power.
Joining us in the fifth seat at the table, CNN senior political commentator Adam Kinzinger. He's a former Republican congressman who was a member of the House on January 6th and a member of the January 6th committee. Just
really quick, guys. Could you imagine if Kamala would have won this election? Right, it's January 6th. What would have happened? How do you think these MAGA nut jobs, cultists, and Trump with the constant lies, what do you think they would have done again? Let me know in the comments. I think it's pretty obvious.
Talk about Kamala Harris for a second there, Van Jones. I mean, she had the unenviable job today of certifying an election for a man that she doesn't like very much.
Well, I mean, whether she likes him or not, she could have been certifying herself. I mean, it's like whether she loved the guy, doesn't like the guy. You know, she tried to become president of the United States. She had 100 days to do it. The ball had been dropped. She picked it up. And so it's got to sting. But class act. She did what she had to do. She put the country first. She did a good job. And it shouldn't be remarkable, except that the guy that she was certifying couldn't find himself to do it 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, you know, we were sitting here watching this whole thing go down, watching the Capitol be sacked, watching police officers be beaten up. And we thought that was, and then the question I asked then, is this the end of something or the beginning of something? Was this a death rattle of a politics that had been defeated and was being ushered off the stage? Or was it the beginning of something? Unfortunately, it turned out it was the beginning of something.
Yeah, I mean, that very question is really where we are as a country. Are we in the middle of the thing? And is the new thing going to be something that acts as if January 6th was an important? Here's the National Review saying January 6th is over. The political force of the 2020 election contest and the Capitol riot are spent. You think there's some truth to that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think...
Guys, I don't think it's over. I think this MAGA movement, when Trump goes away, loses, whatever happens, or actually, yeah, he's forced to leave, but God only knows if he's actually going to leave or not, at least put his thumb on the scale, right, and not certify the election if Democrats win in 2028. I think the MAGA movement is here to stay. I hate to say that. There's some people out there, someone saw that, whether it's J.D. Vance, DeSantis, they saw the winning remedy. The winning remedy is foundationally being a bigot, attacking black people, immigrants, trans people, gay people. This stuff is not going to stop.
I want to move on past January 6th, too.
Sorry, really quick. The civilian in this country is just gone. Ever since Trump came down this escalator, the civilian in this country is gone. The normalization of racism in this country, to me, is mind-boggling. It's part of the reason why I started this channel, to push back. We need to keep pushing back.
Right? America made a decision. That doesn't mean that this isn't a legitimate issue to continue to bring up sometimes. It doesn't mean that we can never talk about this again. And I also think it doesn't mean that history is not going to accurately reflect what happened. It will. Donald Trump is president right now. He won, okay? It wasn't the mandate they say it is. But regardless, he's not going to come out of office in 4 years more popular than he is today. No president ever does. So what happens then? And are people going to look back and say, yeah, you know, January 6th, 4 years ago, or 8 years ago at that time, really was a serious issue. And so I think history is going to look at this very clear-eyed. But I also think unless Donald Trump himself, who has been obsessing about January 6th and obsessing about retribution, if he himself keeps bringing it up, I think, yeah, America's ready to talk about other things.
Well, if he pardons a bunch of people,
sure, yeah,
we'll have to talk about it then, and it seems like he plans to. So, you know, this is going to rattle around in the garbage disposal for a while.
Meanwhile, there is this. This is a congressman from Georgia, Mike Collins, who is currently serving. And here's what he says. On this day in 2021, thousands of peaceful grandmothers gathered in Washington, D.C. to take a self-guided, albeit unauthorized, tour of the United States Capitol building. That was just a little bit of what was a pretty wild statement on X. Scott, I mean, as we've talked at length, look, the American people, yes, they elected Donald Trump, but what he wrote there is not true.
Yeah, some people committed violent acts, broke windows, and those people should be held accountable for that. I do think it's possible that some people were swept up in prosecutions for doing far less.
You already know what he's going to do. He's going to normalize, going to clean this up. This is what he does. I call him the sanitizer. Somebody in the right wing says something racist, he comes up and cleans it up. Well, he really meant this. What he's really talking about is this issue.
And so I don't know that it's necessarily out of bounds to look at those people if they were overcharged. You know, on this Harris business, I think before we canonize St. Kamala here on the high holy day of January 6th, let's remember the Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022 makes it perfectly clear that the vice president has nothing but purely ministerial duties on this day. She didn't actually certify the results of the election. That's done by the voters and the people of the
It
states.
was clear as day 4 years ago as well, but because of the
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, nobody's trying to canonize her. The same thing was true for
they're
her.
not? I mean, she put out a video trying to canonize herself.
She was actually just saying it's unremarkable. That's true.
That's the opposite of canonizing.
I want to actually congratulate the Democrats today. This is the first election since 1980.
He's doing this again.
This is the first election since 1988 that a Republican won, and Democrats did not try to overturn the results on the floor of the Congress. So congratulations, Democrats.
I'm only interrupting you because we've heard this before.
We've played this.
Well, you've heard the truth before, but I thought it was worth repeating.
Here's the thing. You know.
I'm sorry, I have to stop that. This guy is just grotesque. I mean, MAGA out there. You see that little giggle, that smirk? You understand, people passed away because of the events that happened on January 6th. One of your own followers, Ashley Babbitt, sorry, I messed up her name there. She passed away because she believed these lies. I don't know much about her story and her background, but, right, she was a cultist. She believed everything the orange god was telling her. She really believed, right, that she thought she was doing something good, that she was fighting for the country. As insane as that may be, she passed away. This guy just smirks and laughs. MAGA, are you okay with this? You guys still blindly follow this party, this movement. Have you no respect for yourself? No humanity? Is that just gone? You so-called Christians and people, these people have family values? Really? Are these the values you want to pass on to your children? This kind of just disgusting disrespect for those who literally passed away because of the cult leader that he's still trying to sanitize. These people are really gross and dangerous.
Parliamentary disputes.
There were not parliamentary disputes.
Mr. Speaker, a point of order.
No, that's not what happened.
They tried to stop the counting of the votes. Taking flagpoles and taking weapons.
Look at the smirk. Look at the smirk. You're trying to make a comparison. When the hell did the Democrats ever attempt a coup? Hang Mike Pence. Do you remember that chant, MAGA? Does this not open your eyes at least a bit? I know if it hasn't 4 years ago, I don't know why I'm asking if it opened your eyes now. But I just think it grosses me out that this guy laughs on a day that people passed away. Imagine if they would have gotten to those Senate and Congress members. Where would we be at right now as a country? You just laugh about it. These people do not give a crap about you, MAGA and normal Republicans. They do not care. They'll put you in the line of fire to get what they want as far as power, legislation, or whatever it is, their ego and narcissism to be in power.
And bursting into the Capitol to try to stop or delay or obstruct the certification of election. That has never happened before.
They have tried to
I
stop the
heard you
electoral
doing this
college.
earlier today, and I thought by tonight maybe you'd sort of
seriously.
give this one up. I get what you're trying to do here, and it's a hard job you have. But there is
Is it
no
true or not?
comparison. There is no comparison. And as Adam says, history will remember this correctly for several reasons. There are thousands of videos of what happened on that day. There are videos that the insurrectionists themselves took. There are CC videos, there are reporter videos, news cameras, videos inside the Capitol, outside the Capitol. We know exactly what happened. So to the Mike Collinses of the world, all I would say is, do you want to be on the right side of this in the history books, or do you want to be the villain in this story? Because in 100 years, your great-great-grandkids are going to know you as the wrong side of this issue, not the right side. And how is that going to feel? Because you can whitewash it as much as you want in the moment. There is no confusion, none, as to what happened. And it is not the same as someone on the House floor raising their hand and saying, I have a question about this vote.
That's not what happened on the House.
You see the face that Scott Jennings makes there? He just gets angry. Like, I would love to hear what these people say behind closed doors. I would love to hear what they say about their own MAGA supporters. How dumb they think you guys are. Guys, you can repent. You can start acknowledging the obvious and move on from this garbage. And MAGA out there, I want to ask you a simple question. Do you guys feel happier ever since this man came down in 2016 the escalator? Do you feel happier with life and society? Or are you more filled with hatred and darkness more than ever? And everything gets you angry. Everything is a conspiracy. The other side's out to get you. Black people this, immigrants that, gay people this, trans people that. Just a constant, just hate-filled heart. Do you feel better? MAGA parents out there, is this a world you want to leave to your kids?
They tried to stop the counting of the electoral votes in every
I
election.
think
Wait, no,
that-
wait, Scott.
Yeah.
I was there, man. So
When
like,
Al Gore certified the election, he did not even allow them to make the point of order. It was out of order.
how
and
many
they
weeks
I
did he
view
hold up
this
the
is
counting of
probably
the
why.
continued to
This is why.
Yes, for a
This is why
recount. He didn't hold up. Yes, for a recount.
we probably won't be able to move on from
Right,
January
yep.
6th. You're my friend, but I know you're smarter than that. I know that you're smarter
What do you
than
mean?
comparing what
the
happened.
country has already moved on.
No.
It's everybody today that's having a meltdown that hasn't moved on.
Trump keeps bringing it up.
Whoa. We're not having a meltdown. We watched the vice president do her job, just as we had to wait 14 hours, but nonetheless watch Mike Pence do his job. And just as we commended Mike Pence for having the courage to stand up to Donald Trump, it takes when people lose, whether you're a child or an adult, it's hard to lose. That's why you don't want to be a loser. And
That's why Donald Trump couldn't
do
he
it.
lost.
That's why we actually are here, is because he couldn't be an adult. He couldn't stand up and say, you know what? The country is bigger than me. The voters decided 4 years ago, and today he still hasn't done it. Now, you can try and compare 2000 and 2004 and 2000, but that's not the same. And I know deep down inside that you also know that what happened on January 6th, we have never seen anything like that in our lifetime, and God hopes we never do, and that was not what happened.
Look, we can just over and over again.
Honestly, I think Allison, I think her last name there, she's a fantastic communicator. The way how she called him, hey, you're my friend. Like, she came down to a human level. Like, you know this is wrong. There's something there that I think Scott respects her. I don't know exactly why, but normally he would lash out, make these stupid faces, interrupt, but it's almost how she talked to him. It made him almost realize for a second, like, okay, maybe there is no real argument here. Great communicator. I couldn't do that. And maybe they are friends offset, right? Because for like MAGA out there, this guy's he's playing actor here. He's doing a show. I don't know what's really in this guy's mind or really what's in his heart. You can see him looking at the camera every time and make these stupid little faces. He's playing to you.
I do want to say, I remember 2000, and I remember Al Gore going through that process of trying to get a recount. And I remember the Supreme Court stopping the count. We were 287 votes down, I think. And I remember Al Gore doing something extraordinary. He gave a concession speech. It is 100% appropriate to fight as long as you can. I have no problem with that. To go to the Supreme Court, I have no problem with that. But once the system makes it a good determination, you make the concession speech. The problem was not that Donald Trump kept fighting. The problem was that after you had 60 court votes, and he's never, to this day, has never given the concession speech, and that's the damage.
And even when the violence was unfolding, he said, this election was stolen from us. He literally said that.
That's not good.
As officers were being beaten. The question of pardons has come up. And it's pretty clear from the reporting that Trump is not just considering them, but considering pretty sweeping pardons. One of the people looking for a pardon, asking the Trump folks for it, is Enrique Tarrio. He was sentenced to 22 years for seditious conspiracy for some of the most broad-ranging charges against people who were involved in not necessarily breaking the windows, but in organizing some of the violence that occurred. If he pardons Enrique Tarrio, what do you think is going to be the consequence of that?
Well, I mean, it's obvious he has no real belief in the rule of law at that point. It's just like, go out, break the law, I'll pardon you. And that's just political violence, man. That's what we're going to do when he pardons all these people he's going to pardon anyway. So I think it sends a bad message. I'm not convinced he'll pardon Tarrio. I'll say that. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he commutes his sentence and keeps the conviction, which don't let people believe that that's anything. You know, that is a pardon, basically, because this guy's going to go still be a Proud Boy then. So, look, it's awful, but, you know, it's going to be 4 years of awful, probably. I hope I'm wrong.
Should he pardon him?
I don't condone the pardoning or commuting the sentences of people who committed violent acts. And I have never denied what happened on January the 6th was bad. People who committed violent acts or assaulted police officers should face the consequences of their actions. So no, I'm not for...
By the way, that's hundreds of people.
I'm not for mass pardons and commutations of people who committed violent acts. I do think there may have been people swept up in prosecutions who did not necessarily commit violent acts and perhaps were overcharged or over-sentenced. I don't have a problem with looking at that. But no, I'm not. Look, I didn't like it when Joe Biden commuted the sentences of all these people who committed all these heinous acts that got him the death penalty the other day. So I'm generally for punishing people who commit violence.
But even more than that, like over the course of this election, I interviewed 100.
Finally, he had a normal, fair comment. How hard is that to be? Just to be sensible.
Hundreds of voters. Not a one told me, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I want him to pardon Jan 6th insurrectionists. It's not why he was sent there. It's not why Republicans won the way they did. Voters were really clear about what they want Trump to do. It's fix the economy, close the border, and make their towns safer. So this other stuff, like ending birthright citizenship and pardon, this is meat for the base, but it is not why he got a second chance. And Republicans and Trump would be smart to remember why they were sent to Washington.
Adam Kinzinger.
All right, we're going to leave it there. That was the end of the segment. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to try to comment more. Please subscribe if you aren't. If you got all the way to the end, thank you. And I'll catch you on the next one.